I'm back out on the lot with Majestic Midways to see how a few more Carnival rides are set up.
So there it is, huh?
Yeah, in all its glory.
Yeah.
This week I'm focusing on the KMG Feuerball, or Afterburner as it's also called. This is the first ride we've done that uses multiple trailers, and I've always wondered how they align those trailers so precisely. The rear trailer has what I can best describe as gates that swing out and align with notches in the front trailer. The front trailer has a pair of hydraulic-controlled feet that basically allow you to walk it into position. Once everything's lined up, large pins are inserted, and that holds everything in place. These yellow pyramids are the bases the ride rests on. There's large hydraulic cylinders in all four corners of the ride that are lowered onto these bases, allowing you to level and support it. That rear tandem axle can pivot out of the way. I had some reservations about doing this particular ride build-up. I'm primarily interested in classic and vintage rides, and this is quite a bit newer than that. This ride was completely rebuilt within the last few years, and every bit of wiring was replaced. Each trailer has a pendant that's used to control all the hydraulic and winch functions. The next step is to install the decking between the trailers. There's a stationary section at each end of the ride that's being built up here. After the side decks are installed, the next step is to lower the center decks. This ride has two winches, one on each trailer, that's used throughout the setup process. Here the cables are being strung to lower the center decks. So the crew got pulled away that afternoon to take care of other issues and didn't get back to it till later that evening. Their goal was to get the two tower sections joined together before calling it a night. A few racks of seats need to be rolled out of the way so the tower legs can be pivoted into position. A hydraulic cylinder is used to pivot the rear leg forward. Another hydraulic cylinder is used to pivot the front leg towards the rear. The swing arm is also attached to the front leg, making it a lot heavier to move. The weight of the swing arm is carried by this wheeled tripod. Large sheets of a thick plastic are put over the deck to help handle the weight and make it easier to roll. With the swing arm rolled into position, the hinge plate is bolted, making a solid structure. Incidentally, I've been asked a few times how electricity is transmitted through rotating joints. These are the slip rings that make that possible, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. The last step for the night was to install bolts through this large bearing, tying the front and rear of the ride together through its pivot point. Here's a nice shot of the Gravitron across the Midway that I didn't know I had. Everything's a little clearer in the light of day, and all of those bolts that were installed last night need to be torqued. These are some color-changing LED floodlights getting latched into position. In this shot, you can see the wiring feeding under the slip rings to make their connections. On the other side, these brushes rub the rings as they rotate, completing the circuit.
All right. You want to hand it up or do you want to grab it up there?
That orange color always reminds me of Hot Wheels tracks. These are also called collector rings, or around carnivals they're usually called commutators, but they're not technically a commutator. Prior to lifting the tower, the swing arm is supported by steel cables to prevent it from, well, swinging. These yellow struts create a 4-bar parallel linkage that allow the tower legs to pivot towards the center. Now that the two halves are joined, the struts and the hydraulic cylinders can all be removed in preparation for lifting the tower. The hydraulic cylinders that lift the tower can be maneuvered to help take the pressure off these lower cylinders to aid their removal. Before the tower is lifted, some snatch blocks are installed, which will be used later during the assembly. As the tower begins to lift, the landing gear can be taken off the swing arm. Those yellow struts will eventually be removed and the openings covered with decking. With the tower all the way up, the left legs need to be unlatched and swung into position. To do this, the winches are reeled out and run through snatch blocks. About this time, another part of the crew showed up that had just finished on another ride. They made quick work of all the ramps and fences. Like a lot of European rides, this ride originally would have had a scenic back wall, but it was removed when it was rebuilt. The idea was to be able to load and unload from both sides of the ride. It also means it doesn't have a bad side and can go in the middle of the midway. In my opinion, the lighting package they put on more than makes up for the missing back wall. The left legs are lowered into the center, and then the winches are moved to pull them up into position. With the legs in position, large pins are inserted and secured with bolts. The winches are repositioned again, connecting to the swing arm so that the steel cables can be removed and the swing arm lowered. Have you kept track of how many different jobs this winch has done so far? The winch is once again repositioned, this time through the snatch blocks that were installed before the tower was raised. In this configuration, the winch can be used to pick up the stub arms or swing arm sweeps and moved into position. The stub arms are bolted into position at the end of the swing arm. There's 8 bolts per arm, and just like before, these have to be torqued to the manufacturer's specification. This is repeated for all 6 arms. After all the stub arms are attached, the winch cables move to a lower snatch block that's in alignment with the ends of the stub arms. This allows the seat gondolas to be lifted into place. Here again, there's more bolts and more torquing, repeating the process for each of the 6 seat gondolas. One of the last steps is to fill the trailers with several thousand gallons of water. This provides tens of thousands of pounds of ballast while still allowing you to travel over the roads with the trailers by draining the water. These pipe nipples are where the water is added. I didn't see them do it, but I imagine it looks like this. If you like seeing Carnival rides set up, or you enjoy seeing vintage Carnival rides restored, click that link to the left and come along for the rides.